then we move into the supplementary number 2 agenda item 27, which is the Mayor's monthly report. And are there any questions on this report? So, Phil.
Andrew, it's really in relation to Carlene's report, but it's just like...
Oh, right, okay.
It's just a comment, really, and rather than a question. But there's a clear reference there to the work that our emergency services did with the recent flooding, and that the staff really worked in a very highly commendable way. And this isn't written here, but I know that many of them were working 20-hour days. So it's easy to come along and say, you know, we want this done, we want that done. But in fact, I think full credit to a staff who work very, very hard. And I actually think, being on the Land Drainage Working Group, we're incredibly lucky to have the calibre of staff that we have. And I would just want that noted, and I'm pleased it is referred to in the Chief Executive's report.
Yeah, and thanks very much indeed for that comment. I mean, I think I speak for all of us when I say that our gratitude goes out to staff that worked long hours in very difficult situations, away from their families, particularly on that Friday and Saturday and over that weekend, in a way that, you know, people wouldn't naturally choose to. But the work needed to be done, and our staff were out there and they did that work in very difficult and trying situations. And we certainly appreciate that, and we appreciate the sacrifices that they made to do so. And I'm very aware of some very positive commentary that's come in from affected residents who had interaction with staff over those days as well. So thanks very much indeed, Phil, for making those comments. Thank you. So now turning to the Mayor's report, are there any questions on the Mayor's monthly report? Yanni.
I mean, it is in the Mayor's report as well, but I do think it would be good, we're told this is a review of the flooding response, it would be good to have an ability for the community to input into that. So is there a way in which that can be done? I mean, the longer we get from the event, the harder it will be for people.
Yeah, so I think I refer you to the comments that I made earlier in response to the community board comments, which is that, you know, we've been in obviously the emergency situation, we're now in recovery. Clearly there will be a review of what was done and any learnings from that, and I think it's reasonable to expect that any review would cast the net wide in terms of getting opinion, including comment back from the affected communities and community boards. And I'm assuming that the ITI committee or the Land Drainage Recovery Working Party would have some governance input into that anyway.
So have we got a time frame?
They have had, and previously residents have been advised that the next meeting for information, because as Yanni is aware, there have been a number of meetings with residents groups. The next one was to be October, and I understand with what the work staff are doing, that in fact the date most likely is to be October for the wider Heathcote community meeting.
Yeah, sorry, I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking about a review of the event, not the whole flooding mitigation work, which is important and needs to happen, but like we did with the tsunami response, I thought it was really good. We had a dedicated staff member that came and talked to the community boards, and that people could input feedback too. So I just wanted to get understanding of a time frame around that review that's mentioned in this report that will happen, and I guess just raise concern that the longer we leave it, the less information we may get back that's relevant.
Yep, so whilst I'm hearing concerns, I don't have an answer to the question. It's something that we can certainly find out and feedback. I mean, really, it's, you know, what is the process for gaining local input, community input into that piece of work that we're referring to make sure that and doing that in as timely a fashion as possible, so that we don't have a big gap that then means that we lose the ability to capture that input in any meaningful way. Yeah,
but I just need to be clear that what's talked about in the Mayor's report here is a review of the response, which is what we would do after any emergency. You're actually asking for a review of things before that, and so that's a discussion we'll need to have with the ITI committee and the Land Drainage Board. That's a different issue. That so the review of the response is something that we would do normally,
yeah, no,
in a fairly close proximity to the event.
Yeah, sorry. My understanding is that the Mayor's already asked for an update on the mayoral task force and a sort of report. That's a separate piece of work, yes, around what recommendations were, what's happened, what hasn't happened.
That's something completely different as well.
The review of the event and the response is what I was raising. So that is underway, or
No,
it's
but
yet to
whereas
start?
we've worked through the recovery phase first, and then we'll do the review of that once we've settled that
When are we
down.
likely to get some information
Well,
around
we've just
that?
heard that it'll be at least October before that engagement of the rest of the community is.
So that's
There's some
completely
reporting
different.
coming back at the end of August about the flooding, I believe.
We need to be talking about the same thing. I think we're talking about various work streams here, to be clear about that. So, Jana, you're talking about the, I understand, I think you're talking about what the community board raised, and that impact of that on the event, which is slightly different. It's a bit more like the tsunami warning system. So it's not just about the response. So the response is a fairly standard debrief after an event like that. The mayoral task force update is about, as I recall from our last meeting, was about what was proposed to be done and what was done. So that's a sort of stock take of those things. Now they may all come together, but they're actually different pieces of
They're
work.
quite separate, but there were 2 points that the community board raised. One was around on the Thursday knowing, you know, that the significance of the event and not reading that properly. But
Then
that's,
you'll recall being briefed,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you were there, that it was the storm surge that was unpredicted.
I
The
understand
rest
all
was
that.
fine.
I'm just saying, what we've just heard from the community board is what they were saying with local knowledge. They saw a bigger event, and I'm not saying that they're right or we're right or who's right or wrong. I'm just saying they did raise the kind of preparation for the event and the adequacy of it. So, you know, I understand the mayoral stuff will happen. I'm just talking about the review at the moment around the process by which people can feed into that review to the response of the event.
Okay,
And I
so-
presume some preliminary response will be the preparedness for the event as well.
Well, we can think through that.
Yep, all right. So obviously it's something that there's some thinking underway. We'll obviously make sure that's communicated back in due course. All right, thank you. Are there any further questions on the Mayor's report? So I'm happy to move that we receive the information in the report, and then there's the second resolution as well, resolve that Councillor Davidson replace the Mayor as the Christchurch City Council appointee to the Canterbury Regional Transport Committee. So we've got those 2 parts of the resolution there. I'm happy to move that. David East is happy to second. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you.